Excellent. Everyone's been watching our hold music for the last hour and a half. That's excellent. And now I'm just going to give Brad a little bit of a job to edit the front off the podcast. All right. Well, that was a nice echo. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Thank you, and let's go. Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf. This is the voice of Transformers Collectors Club Australia. This is episode 71. We're recording live on July 29th, 2016. I'm Jason. Joining me tonight, as usual, we have Brad. How are you doing, Brad?
I'm deaf. I'm fire. I have the flu. I'm here in spirit.
For which I'm recovering, so like I'm actually probably the one who gave it to you last week in Shepparton. I'm sorry.
Good point.
Yeah, I know, right?
Flu-laden pizza. I didn't see that one coming.
No one expects the flu-laden pizza. Joining us tonight, we have Max coming to us from Adelaide. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good, thanks, Jason. Yourself?
I'm doing all right. Have you got the flu? Because like Brad and I have had the flu.
I just got over it. Yeah, I went to Victoria the other week, and Victoria will do that to you.
I think I'm seeing the common thing here. Now we have a special guest joining us tonight. Ash Wayling is joining us from Tasmania, the southernmost guest that we've ever had on the podcast. How are you doing, Ash?
I do not have the flu, but I do have a rocking case of jet lag, if that counts.
Coming back from SDCC, just give me a couple more days.
At least 2 more days.
I was going to say, did you pick up a con flu while you were there?
See, now the two types, the con crud or the floor lurgy. I did not get either of them. I don't know how. I ate terribly while I was over there. I was not a healthy person, but I've come back in pretty good shape. It's just the jet lag.
That'll do it.
It's okay. You're still healthier than most people over there.
Yeah. What's the gestation period on the plane coming back? How long's the flight?
14 hours. It doesn't matter how you slice it. Tailwind, leaving early. It's 14 or more. There's no shorter than that.
That's a good day. It's a good time to get a chest infection.
Oh yeah, that recycled air. Love it.
Yeah. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Yeah, so as we mentioned, which I think may have gotten drowned in a little bit of crosstalk, Ash, you just returned from SDCC. It is great to have you here to talk about all of the happenings and all of the things that you saw there. I'm kind of tempted to just skip the rest of the boilerplate and let's just go straight to your SDCC experience. It was not actually your first time there, was it?
No. So obviously I went to Comic-Con in 2012. Jokingly enough, I said to my wife when she said, "Where do you want to go for a honeymoon?" I said, "I want to go to Comic-Con." I said it as a joke, and she said, "Okay," so that happened. And obviously in 2012, I had no idea what I was doing. I got tickets for 2 days, so that's as much as I got to go and see, and after those 2 days, I knew I had to do it again and do it properly, so 2016 was my year. I actually got a pass to go to every single day, including what they call preview night, which is a good way to get out on the floor and see a lot of the vendor displays. I mean, Hasbro particularly. And I didn't just go to America to get a rockin' case of jet lag. It was Comic-Con. 6 or 7 rockin' days of it.
Bloody hell.
6 or 7 days. I actually had no idea that SDCC went on that long.
Well, technically it doesn't, but Comic-Con is such a stupidly massive event that it actually takes over downtown San Diego both before and after the show. So, I mean, Comic-Con itself is 5 days. Wow. But there's plenty to do outside of the convention itself because, it takes over the whole city. Every kind of habitable space.
You often hear that with conventions.
And this is the convention of conventions. I mean, I've tried to communicate to friends just sort of how big it is. And I mean, I said to one friend, I said, like, just imagine the biggest gathering you've ever seen. And you're talking PAX, you're talking Supernova. And it's like, take an event like that and then times it by 10. and then times that by 10, and you might be getting a rough idea of sort of what the general kind of numbers of people that you might see at one time is, and that's not all the people you can't see. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably about the number of people in one of the halls for one of the panels.
Yeah, basically, and that's even probably a small panel, to be honest.
So what was the So obviously you had a jam-packed schedule going to tons of panels, looking at the show floor. Can you give us? I'm not going to say one highlight, like your biggest highlight, because that seems a bit unfair. Can you give us maybe 2 or 3 of your top highlights?
I can say without a shadow of a doubt, I have
Hmm.
3 highlights. Now,
Excellent.
I think probably my big thing is voice acting. I love voice actors from movies. I love voice actors from cartoons. I love voice actors from video games. And Comic-Con's one of those events where you're very likely to get those kind of people in one place. So I'll probably go into some more stories when it becomes more relevant, but I did get to hang out with Fred Tatasciore. He's a person that I admire him greatly. He's currently the voice of the Hulk in pretty much any animated thing you might see. If you play Gears of War, he's the Hulk voice, like the really deep one, hi Cap, that kind of voice. If you ever play Gears of War, he's the voice of Damon Baird, the guy with the blue goggles. And if you play Overwatch, he's the voice of Soldier 76. Oh, and if you play StarCraft, he's the voice of Zeratul, the scary Protoss dude who likes to wear a long scarf. So
It's the Doctor.
yeah, I mean, I got to hang out with him for a bit. That was great. And same thing from Overwatch. I got to hang out with a guy by the name of Darren DePaul. He's a broad-range voice actor. He's the voice of Reinhardt from Overwatch. He's also done some voice roles in World of Warcraft. And if you play Hearthstone, he is the voice of the Dark Iron Brawler. Either way, if you play Hearthstone, you probably know that there's a terrifying card where somebody yells out, "Hey everyone, get in here!" and then it all goes downhill from there. And that's him as well. Yeah. So I got to hang out with him and tell him just how much he's stressed people out with such a small voice role. It gives people nightmares. So. But yeah, the third and final one, which I'll love to go into a bit more detail on that in a moment, but it was Steve Bloom, who is the voice of Starscream in Transformers Prime.
Very nice. I love his role.
He's not just Starscream either, is he?
He does a couple of things. I mean, Steve Bloom's one of those people that if you look him up, his list of credits is it's expanding right before your eyes because he seems to never stop working. But yeah, from a Transformers standpoint, I mean, he did like Shockwave in the Fall of Cybertron games, but
nice.
I feel like his brass ring role is definitely Prime Starscream, which was just such a fantastic version of the character.
He did. He brought that character to life so well.
That is. It's got to be one of the best acted and well-defined characters that we've had of Starscream.
Yeah, Starscream is such a, even from the original series, Starscream is such a massive character with just how you have to sort of portray him. So it meant that he did a really fresh take that took a lot of influence from sort of G1, but it had his own sort of spin to it. And it was just, he was a weasel, he was a coward, but, he did things when he needed to do them. It was great. So, yeah, seeing him again was just fantastic.
Awesome.
And in fact, it's not actually the first time you've hung out with Steve as well.
No, I said,
like you've got this. Can you bring up that photo there?
I can actually bring up exactly that photo. I was just admiring it myself actually, but I will say one thing. It was the first time that I actually got to get a photo with him because last time I did this, I was silly enough to not ask him for a photo.
Oh.
There we are. Should be showing on screen shortly.
Excellent.
Now, I mean, if you would like, I would love to tell you the story behind this photo because it is kind of interesting. So
absolutely, go for it.
I mean, obviously, Comic-Con, like any kind of big convention, is all about panels. Seeing certain things and seeing certain people. One of the Transformers panels was called Transformers Animation, Then and Now. And Hasbro actually released a bit of a sizzle reel that went through a lot of the animation. It did highlight very heavily the 1986 movie, because obviously it's its 30th year anniversary this year. Now, the panel itself was very much based around Transformers Robots in Disguise, being that that's sort of the big ticket series that they're showing at the moment. Now, I got there nice and early, because with Comic-Con, if you wanted good seats, you get there early. And so
yeah, you basically have to get there the night before, don't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, depending on how big the panel is, sometimes you need to be there like 12 hours beforehand. Or in my case, I just went to the panel that was before this one in the same room, and then I just didn't leave. So when everyone left from that panel, I moved forward. I got myself a nice position behind the projector. You know, I figured it's an animation panel. The projector's probably going to show some nice stuff. And there was a spare seat right next to me. So I sat, and I was on my phone. Let's be clear, I was playing Pokemon Go, because that's what everyone was doing.
I'm playing Pokemon Go right now, actually.
Yeah. I mean, while that picture's up there, I'm playing it on my phone as well. But I was just sitting, hanging out, waiting for the panel to start. It was a good 10 minutes, and I heard this voice just sort of say, "Hey, is anyone sitting here?" And, you know, I sort of look up, because I've already recognized the voice. And I look up, and of course, it's Steve Bloom, and I say, "Nope, nobody's sitting there." And so he sits down, and so I sort of take a quick look to the left, quick look to the right, and I sort of find myself thinking, is he supposed to be sitting here? Is this a thing? Nobody seems to have recognized him. So I just went whole hog, and I just sort of said, "You know, I do recognize who you are." And he goes, "Yeah, I know. That's why I'm sitting here." So he sort of puts his finger to his mouth and sort of makes a quick shh. He's obviously supposed to be there for a reason, but just don't bring attention to him. So just a quick chat. "Hey, what are you doing nowadays?" He's like, "Oh, working on Star Wars Rebels." "Oh, that sounds fantastic." He talks about how, like, they're working with a lot of the original cast from the original, like, Star Wars movies. They've got Billy Dee, who is Lando Calrissian.
Nice.
His name always escapes me, but they've got the original voice of Darth Vader doing roles, and he's just talking about how the show's just so electric. And I just told him, I said, "You know, I love Robots in Disguise, but God, I miss you being on there." And he's like, "Yeah, I miss Starscream every day." The panel starts, you know, they play a quick sizzle reel, and it shows all this animation. It's got like all the Armada kind of stuff, the original movie. And the panel starts, and of course it's the cast of Robots in Disguise come out. And I've actually got a photo of them as well, so I'll bring that one up for the sake of being consistent. Very talented group of people. I mean, if you've seen Robots in Disguise, you know who we're dealing with. I mean, from left to right, we've got obviously a Rider, we've got Fix-It, we've got Grimlock, Bumblebee, Sideswipe, just a range of really heroic, amazing people. So they go through and they talk about Robots in Disguise, and they talk about how much Transformers have changed, and it's very much an opinion panel. They're asked questions like, who's your favorite character, what's your favorite generation, and that kind of thing. Until it reaches a point where sort of halfway through the panel they do say, "And who's your favorite villain?" And Grimlock says very clearly, "Well, you can't beat Starscream." And at this point, Steve stands up, he walks to the middle of the room, and there's a microphone set up for people to ask questions, and he leans into the microphone, and in Starscream's voice he says, "Well, I don't mind if I do." And then he goes and joins them on stage. And so everyone's clapping, they're all happy because it's obviously Starscream. But then they play the reveal trailer for Transformers Robots in Disguise Season 3, and sure enough, Starscream from Transformers Prime is going to be back in the show, and voiced again by Steve Bloom. So
nice.
I mean,
nice.
I didn't give Robots in Disguise much of a chance when it first came out. It didn't gel with me, but then I started watching it, and now it's just, now that they're really sort of embracing Prime, I'm all over it.
Well, I just made a comment in the group today that I'm going to have to start like grabbing and consuming. I think I stopped about 6 or 7 episodes into season 1, so I know what I'm going to have to start doing this weekend.
Shotgun it,
and
basically.
I'm going to need to catch up. Yeah. Pretty much, just you know, like open the vein, insert the line, and just mainline the entire show.
I say, being that it's one of those shows that it's a children's show, so it's a half-hour time slot, but the average episode's like 22 minutes. You can watch a lot. If you really shotgun it, you can consume it pretty quickly. And it does. It's
one of my
shows
friends actually watches shows at about 1.2 times.
Yeah, I'm about to say you can get away with that with some. But yeah, you get to see Starscream return. He's got a new look, and it's very reminiscent of his G1 colors. But the thing I haven't seen is whether or not he still has high heels like he did in Prime.
That figure was hard to stand. He won't.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it really was. I mean, we've seen the figure revealed. So like the fact that he was coming back was sort of telegraphed a couple of weeks ago. But from the toy, I didn't actually take a good enough look at the toy to see what the feet were like.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. But it's kind of one of those things where I kind of want to know if he's still wearing heels, but at the same time, I kind of want to find out organically by watching the show just to see if he still has that wonderful posture.
Yeah. Footage.
And also,
you said there was actually a reveal of it.
There is a reveal. They're very strict on capturing footage and sharing, but there was nothing to suggest that I couldn't do it for that panel, so I did do a shoddy recording on my phone. I did post it into the group. It's a fantastic bit of phone footage, but I uploaded that on my personal YouTube channel for the group to check out, and I think it's up to like 2,000 views, so I don't think anyone else did it. So everybody is sort of stomaching my terrible recording of it, but of course, if you want to see it, I think if you just Google Robots in Disguise Season 3 teaser in some form of SDCC, it will come up.
Yeah, I've been watching some of the panels from SDCC, and as soon as they show something on screen, the video cuts to black and it comes back after. I'm thinking, show me the goddamn video.
I know, and it entirely depends on which panel it is. It's the really big panels, they don't show it.
Yeah. I understand on the day and like going there, having exclusive content, fine, but it's been a week. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, for me, if there was a panel that I missed and I wanted to know what they showed, I actually had to like try and intercept people as they left the panel and ask them, okay, what did they show? just give me the quick like Reader's Digest version so that way I can pretend I saw it too.
Okay, so Transformers-wise, well, so we've only seen a couple of the photos. Did you want to sort of go through your photo collection? Tell us, what's going on. Just tell us a bit more about the SDCC experience for you, I think.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously, when I went in 2012, SDCC was one of those things that, in my mind, it was my holy grail. It was the thing that all the things I like will be there, and I'll be surrounded by people who also like those things. So I went there told by everybody, you won't be ready for it. So when I went this year, I tried to be ready, and I still wasn't. I still can't be ready. But the one thing I know that I was going to look closer at was what's known as the floor. And the floor, I mean, you've seen like Supernova. Like it's the artist's alley, it's the sales area, just stalls upon stalls. But now, imagine beyond just the people selling there, you also got the big companies. You got Hasbro, Mattel, you got Marvel, DC, just even Lego have this incredible presence where it's more than a store. It's an experience. So, I obviously made my way to the Hasbro booth, and it was a big booth, really large, and obviously it was covering everything from the toys to the mobile games, to the movie, a very small presence for the movie, but I do have some photos of that. I'll bring it up now, because I want to make sure I've got it here. So here we go. Now, I will apologize in advance that I didn't realize that the displays that they were doing were actually being rotated, depending on what had been announced or shown. So it means that there is some things that were obviously announced at Comic-Con that I don't have pictures of them, but I was aware that they were there far too late. Things like the Legends Sharkticon figures, for example. But, I mean, here's some of the sets that I saw. Obviously, if you can see it on screen now, they had the Platinum City of Junk, the Planet of Junk option here with a... I mean, what is that Hot Rod figure? I mean, that's an older style one compared to, like, the newer one that's coming out for Titan's Return, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Generations one.
Yeah. I mean, I can't fault this set if only because I'm a huge fan of the Generations sort of Junkion figures. I think they're absolutely fantastic. Seeing just even new retools of them, I'm happy to see them. I own 3. I'll be honest, I own 2 Wreck-Gars and a Scrap Iron, and I'm happy to buy as many as I can. So
I think the 2 molds are different enough that you can sort of get a couple of each and just sort of interlace them. You can
absolutely mix and match them. The other beautiful thing, of course, is that even these ones in the Platinum set, though it's still the same figure, it's Wreck-Gar and the Scrap Iron figure, they've actually still changed the color palette on them as well. I mean, you can see that on Scrap Iron on the left there, he's got yellow forearms, he's got a yellow trim on his seat, the chest detail is different. So it means that, once again, if you buy this set on top of your existing Junkions, you have even more Junkions. Obviously, Titans Returns was there in a big way, so I got to see Leader Class Soundwave up close. Huge figure, bulky in all the right places. I mean, I obviously have a Takara Masterpiece version of Soundwave, but this here is such a perfect example of a great stopgap.
I've heard people posing them next to like a third-party Megatron, or even the Seekers and that, the Takara Seekers.
Yeah, because he's really tall. Like, he's a really good example. Like, some leader figures are a little bit lacking, but both he and, funnily enough, Blaster are just perfect examples. I mean, I love the colors on Blaster. I mean, he's got a really good gray on sort of the trim areas, particularly his legs, and it's a color that I thought they would have updated on a newer toy, but I'm glad they didn't, because it's the same kind of gray you'd expect from like his G1 kind of incarnations. It looks really good.
It's a bit darker than the Prime you can see behind him too.
Oh, I've got a beautiful picture of that. Power Master Prime is definitely probably my favorite figure from the show. Obviously, we got Alpha Trion, which I'm pretty sure that there's not a single person who didn't scratch their head when they first saw this figure revealed. And just sort of went, that's weird.
Most of them are still scratching their heads.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him up close and I'm still scratching my head because he's just such an odd figure. I don't dislike him. He's just so different. I mean, obviously a triple changer that turns sort of into a spaceship thing and a wolf. I mean, part of me is just happy to see an Alpha Trion figure, to be honest.
Yeah, then the other party is thinking, well, I don't mind it, but just don't call it Alpha Trion.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going around, particularly with things like Nova Prime, for example. So. Yeah. They did have a very large sort of group collective shot. I mean, obviously, Fortress Maximus there in the middle with his San Diego Comic-Con exclusive sword, to which I'd like to extend a very heartfelt sorry to everybody who obviously wants the sword. I'm very sorry that it turned out to be the SDCC exclusive. It's a real kick in the pants for a lot of people who've been picking that up recently.
Yep.
You can obviously see around his feet down there, you've got Power Master Prime, a lot of leader class figures. In the bottom right, you do actually have all of the Generation 2 Combaticons, which their colours really pop. Like, I've seen pictures of them, and I thought that they did have a good colour palette, but just when you see them in person, it's just, the difference is night and day, just how incredibly bright and colourful they are.
And those for that purchase figures from the US, they're about $60 on Amazon. I think they're starting to clear them out, all the G2 stuff. So now's the time to buy if you want to get those G2 bots.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, for Titans Return.
Yeah, if you want to sort of get yourself set up with a nice sort of a fruity Menasor or the legendary Fruticus, as it were.
I definitely want Fruticus.
Fruticus, nice and colourful. And another
Sorry,
fantastic
I did drop off there for a minute, but I'm back now, so yeah, apologies.
That's okay. I would like to point out the unsung hero of this picture was the nice bearded gentleman in the background who didn't know whether or not he should get out of the way or whether it was too late, but just sort of gave me the blank stare otherwise. The other thing you can actually see is that behind Mr. Bearded Gentleman is you can actually see that there are sort of those two display cases behind him that obviously have the exclusives that were being shown at Comic-Con. And you can notice that there are a lot of other display cases there that were empty. Now, these are the ones that, as they actually announced and announced the figures that they were obviously releasing in future, they actually did put them into these cabinets so you could have a closer look. So I did get a close look at the Legends class Sharkticons before I left, and I just have to say that I mean, obviously, there's a lot of fantastic figures that have been released at, obviously, shown at Comic-Con, shown at Cybertron-Con. The Sharkticons are so high up on my wanted-to-buy list, it's not even funny. I have to buy like half a dozen of them and just have them swarm around a Rodimus and a Cup. It has to be done.
Yeah, those are easily the highlight of the past week of convention reveals.
And I mean, there's some figures that lend well to being a Legends class figure, and the Sharkticons are just such a perfect example as a swarming little figure. I do have some other shots here of some of the lower detail. Obviously, Skullcruncher here. Again, that's a figure that caught me by surprise. Is just how I've seen pictures, sort of promotional pictures, that didn't do anything for me, but seeing the figure in person just really blew my mind.
I've seen a few people posting pictures of Skullcruncher and just saying he's actually quite fun to play with. There's been some pictures posted in the group this week. I think some of our overseas members have been getting their hands on him, and just saying how much of a good time they've had playing with him.
There's a surprising amount of articulation in him. I mean, if you just look at even the head and where it sort of joins the neck, and then there's a separate section between the neck and the body, that there's actually a lot there. I thought that it would be a very static figure, but I'm actually really surprised that I'm wrong.
Yeah, something I found interesting is that the Skullcrunch and Weird Wolf look like they're really articulated, whereas the larger Alpha Trion just looks like a brick in beast mode.
Yeah, I'll agree there. I mean, to be completely honest, I mean, coming from Combiner Wars and going into Titan Returns, the Titans Returns figures are just, they seem to be a really fresh sort of take on a lot of these figures, and they're I mean, just to be honest, the quality seems above that of Combiner Wars. So I mean, you can see things here, like there's some figures that aren't posed as well as they could be, but just generally, some of the figures that you see down here, like Chrome Dome in the bottom left is down there. He's got his rewind pal there from sort of the cassette range. They actually, like Chrome Dome himself close up, looks exceptional. Like a really good alt mode, a really good bot mode, and just all of the deluxe figures just seem to have they've sort of nailed how much articulation's needed in a figure, like particularly a deluxe one. Like you can see Blur in the bottom right. You can already tell that sort of he's got good thighs, good knees. I think he has an ankle tilt, which for a deluxe figure, it's unheard of. But when you think about it, it's something really simple to implement, and it sort of becomes a case of why not.
Yeah, I actually wonder if what we're seeing is sort of more in line with where everything was going with Generations before we went to Combiner Wars. Because I mean, Combiner Wars, all the figures have to be interchangeable and they have to function as arms and legs, and so it really limits what you can do with the figure. And so it's been 18 months since we've actually seen some deluxe figures that aren't intended to be combiners come out, and so maybe we're going to see a set of figures come out that sort of aspires to the heights of Generations of sort of the last 5 years or so. I do find that there's a blocky and sort of angular aesthetic that sort of pervaded most of the Combiner Wars line, and I do find that that's carried over into Titan's Return. Like you could see that on Blur very clearly there as well, and you can see it on Scourge as well. There's just these points on the arms and different angles where things aren't curved. Like they've made the decision, and it's a design decision to sort of make surfaces meet at hard edges. And it's stylistically that's just how they want the line to look now. And so fair enough. But I think engineering wise, we're seeing a bit of a return to what you can do with a figure when you don't have to make it into a combiner.
I mean, definitely, Combiner Wars was very much. It was a range of figures that had a bit of enforced homogenization to them, like sort of at the core of every figure, particularly when they're a humanoid robot. There's always this armature of sort of exactly how they should be able to move, sort of physically. And pretty much every figure in the Combiner Wars range has the same armature. You don't get wrist tilts, you don't get ankle tilts. You sort of get a ball joint on the hip, but that's because everyone's got a ball joint on the hip. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, I think friggin' Off-Road transforms exactly the same way as the aerial bots.
Yeah, exactly. Like with the sort of the way that the legs compress into each other, it's very much something that it lends well to sort of this mass design philosophy where it's like, oh, well, I mean, we need another combiner. We've got sort of, I mean, there was a lot of samesies when it came to Combiner Wars.
Even the new bot Blastoff does exactly the same thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, you can see, for example, for Titan's Returns, I mean, right at the front here, just wait a second. Is that Brainstorm with a Decepticon symbol?
It is. Nice.
I see.
Dun, dun, dun. Well,
Spoilers.
guys, I better say, if you read more than meets the eye, that probably is a storyline that you're aware of. But, I mean, just, for example, take a quick look at some of the articulation on him. And, I mean, it's very similar to what you would have seen in Combiner Wars. But, I mean, even just looking at the leg assembly, the leg itself, with like he's got like, I mean, again, it's probably not a design choice. It just sort of happened to fall that way. He's got a hinge on his toe, a really nice robust hinge on his knee, obviously a ball joint at the hips. I mean, I've seen some of the Titans Returns figures just for the sake of actually hiding their hands. They've got wrist tilts, which I mean, that's not a bad thing. That's actually something that's really fun when it comes to posing, because you can do some really sort of nifty. I mean, I don't know what's nifty about having your hands on your hips as a pose, but it's still a pose.
Well, it always helps with holding weapons and whatnot. So
yeah,
you know,
absolutely. I mean, you can see here from the back, and this is Chrome Dome again. You can already see from like his shoulders and his wrists and all that he's just as far as deluxes go. Like I've tried to move closer to just buying masterpiece scaled figures and masterpiece figures, because deluxes are the kind of things you could buy one a week and then you realize that you're running out of money pretty quickly. But Titans Returns is dragging me back. It makes me want these figures again, which is really, really worrying. And please don't let my wife hear me say that, because she won't be happy.
Is that a broken sword I see on the?
Yep. So, well, I mean, it's not so much it's a broken sword, but obviously Fortress Maximus' sword actually does break down, because you can actually see that Cerebro, I think,
look at that. I didn't realize.
Is that the head assembly? Cerebro actually gets to hold a chunk of the sword for himself. So, I mean, obviously the other chunks are a little bit less useful, but it's a nifty thing nonetheless. So. Moving into what I think is probably one of the most gorgeous figures I saw at Comic-Con, Power Master Optimus Prime.
Yeah, very nice.
There's just detail everywhere you look. The only thing that really struck me out and made me sad was obviously just he's such a big figure, and he has no ankle tilts like at all.
Notice that.
Yeah, same problem with Ultra Magnus.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a big figure, and you know he's going to have to sit with a really wide stance to stand up. And as soon as you don't have that ankle tilt, it's like you're stuck in this situation with, do I spread the legs to stand and put up with the lack of an ankle tilt, or do I sort of do the whole penny between the knees so he can have flat feet on the ground? It's disappointing.
Apparently the same feet as Ultra Magnus. That's the one thing they never changed.
It's a retool of Ultra Magnus.
Yeah, but they never retooled the feet. The feet are straight up.
Yeah,
Takara's version of this is going to have it.
The Takara's version already has a lot of things that make people sort of want it above this one, but yeah, the funniest thing is just how little something like that completely changes what people perceive of the figure. If you chuck ankle tilts on the Takara version, people immediately discredit the Hasbro version entirely.
Just because it's a much more premium feel.
Absolutely.
Market, though,
yeah, and I mean, just the amount of detail on this thing just blew me away straight away.
I love how he's got insignia on both shoulders, where most it's only a single shoulder.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that you thought that they only do one for the sake of saving money, but they didn't. So that's fantastic as well. Obviously, in his truck form, he's a really sort of squat little truck, but he does just that front end of him looks real mean.
Bulletproof.
Yeah, that doesn't look like your average hauler. That looks like a truck that's going to be sort of shrugging off enemy fire. It's pretty ridiculous. And I love that he's got places everywhere for his weapons.
Yep.
Yeah, a truck looks like it's going to murder you.
Exactly. It's definitely Optimus murder truck.
All the guns combined to make one Uber gun too.
Yes, sort of turns into a giant weird rifle. So
yeah.
That's back to that again. Obviously, jumping forward, looking once again at the star photo of the Robots in Disguise cast. fantastic people. I did get a chance to have a quick chat with Mr. Will Friedel. He's voiced Bumblebee since that moment in Prime where Bumblebee actually got to talk, and I actually told him about...
moment in Prime.
Yeah, well, he actually, it's kind of funny from the panel itself. I mean, hopefully they do put the panel up so people can watch it, but his actual story was he was told he was reading for somebody, and they didn't tell him who it was. So he came in and he read the line, and then they revealed that it was actually Bumblebee. And he said, I did the reading, and I didn't probably put in as much effort as I would have if I'd known that I was playing the character that had been around for the entire series and had never spoken a word. And then he sort of said, you know, he did his piece, and they revealed, oh, you're playing Bumblebee, and he was like, oh no, there's going to be people who've watched this show for years, and they're just going to respond with, that's what he sounds like?
That's very interesting because at the time there was a big hoopla about Soundwave was going to have his first word. After a season and a half, yes, season 3/4, Soundwave was going to speak.
He's saying his first word.
It was in Beast Hunters, so it took 3 seasons for him to say something.
And he said, classic Soundwave line, Soundwave superior.
Yeah, that's
Autobots
right.
inferior.
Yep. And that's the thing, everyone was concentrating on that, but the fact we haven't had a talking Bumblebee since G2? Goldberg?
Animated.
Yeah, since animated.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing, that Transformers Prime came out after sort of the Bay movies picked up, and so people were sort of going, does this tie into the Bay movies? Is not talking Bumblebee a thing now? Yeah, and I mean, the other beautiful thing about the panel as well is that obviously Peter Cullen couldn't be there, but they just had like a full 15 to 20 minutes of just every member of the staff just talking about just how unbelievably awe-inspiring the guy is. Plus, every single person did their own Peter Cullen impersonation, and all it was them saying, Bumblebee. Bumblebee.
Excellent. And, you know, look, I think you've obviously had some time to practice your Peter Cullen impersonation there as well. It does roll off the tongue.
It does.
Very nice.
So that was fantastic. I did have one final story, I guess, from the floor of Comic-Con. Obviously, the Hasbro booth was beautiful. This big sort of round room that separated from the rest of the con floor, displaying everything. Obviously, it was a Hasbro booth, not Transformers, so I meant that Transformers on one side, My Little Pony in a really small little corner, which was nice.
Good.
And the Marvel, and then the Marvel Legends figures. Well, the fact that My Little Pony was nice and small meant that, you know, I was a 30-year-old man browsing the transforming robots, but I didn't have to look like I was browsing the children's pony toys as well, which was a relief, because in 2012, My Little Pony was just taken off, so it was like, My Little Pony Transformers. Just this is the Transformers section, so you got to go through all the pony stuff to get to the Transformers.
Sounds like Pop Vinyls last year.
Oh,
Supernova.
No, like every year for the last 5 years or so.
Inescapable maze of walls of Pop Vinyls.
You haven't seen anything until you've seen probably a 30-foot tall Pop Vinyl. Which
I can imagine the 30 trucks out the back that delivered them all.
The Funko booth had a 30-foot tall Groot Pop Vinyl. It's one of those things you sort of go,
awesome.
It was pretty impressive. I was glad it was Groot, though, because, I mean, I'm not big into Pop Vinyls, but I've seen that one, so seeing that huge was amazing. But yeah, my final story from the Hasbro floor area was it was kind of interesting. It was the day that I chose I wasn't going to go into the convention. I actually decided I'll do something else today, because there's a lot of outdoor things to do. So I was outdoors for about 5.5 hours. It's San Diego. It was warm. It was probably just under 40 degrees. I'm from Tasmania, so effectively I'm cold-blooded or a Viking. You can choose. So it was warm. And I sort of found myself thinking, the one place that has really good air conditioning is the convention floor.
Wow.
So
that's actually a first for a convention, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pleasant and the air circulates, so the people who don't wear deodorant don't become too pungent, which is nice. But I decided I'll go in for 20 minutes and just cool down. And so I rocked up, and it turns out that just by chance, the doors I went through were the Hasbro doors. So I walk in, and I'm like, oh, they've had stuff released since then. I can have a quick look. So I rock up, and there's a crowd. And I'm not used to there being a crowd. I'm used to people browsing, but there was a crowd. And so I approach, and it turns out that they're actually doing a demonstration of Transformers Earth Wars, the mobile game. And
Yeah.
I gave it a go, and I already knew for a long time that it's Clash of Clans, but with Transformers. And I mean, the Transformers animate well, and I played it for about 10 minutes and went, yeah, this is cool, but it's not worth draining my battery over. So I watched them for a moment, and then a woman stood up and says, all right, we're going to have a Transformers trivia competition, and there's going to be fantastic prizes. Now, this is at about 20 to 6 in the evening. The convention floor shuts at 6. So she's announced this competition and then just gone, and we're going to have to do this very quickly.
What day is this on?
This was on Thursday night.
Okay, so there's still plenty of time. People would have definitely left early because they know they would have got back.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, small group of people, not many of us. I think it was mostly people that just sort of got lost and sort of stopped and went, oh, Earth Wars. So they said, okay, trivia competition. Let's do a warm-up question. Who is the voice of Optimus Prime? I wasn't joining in. I was there to watch. I was up against the wall like...
Gary Chalk.
And you say that, but nobody said Peter Cullen. Nobody said a word. In fact, most people sat there and just went... I'm pretty sure one person was like, Ben Affleck, and like something just completely off the wall weird. I was like, okay. So I left it, and the second question was, besides Megatron, who else did Frank Welker voice?
Oh shit!
So
just start throwing names out.
Well, that's the thing. So I put my hand up straight away, and they go, okay, you, and I said Soundwave, and they went, who else? And I'm like, Ravage, Laserbeak, like anything that doesn't make human noises, like take your pick. And they're like, we only needed 2 answers, but I guess we'll take your 4. That's fine. So they never actually said what the prize was. I just joined in because people weren't answering the questions. And so they handed me a piece of paper that said this.
Redemption certificate for Fortress Maximus. Congratulations from Transformers Earth Wars. And I did think it was funny that they said that they're going to mail it to you later in the year.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing is that they said, and like, I didn't question it. I've been given Fortress Maximus, so I didn't question it. But they're like, after it's released this year, we'll mail it to you. And I was like, they're selling it where I'm from.
But you've got a ton of them on your stand as well.
You're selling them here at Comic-Con. I'll take the freebie. I don't care about waiting. So,
are you actually getting an SDCC version, or are you getting a retail version?
I got asked that today, and the same response I gave to that guy was,
fair enough.
It's free. Worst case scenario, I don't get a sword. It's free. So, fair enough. I start filling out my details. I'm happy. I'm really happy about this. And so the next question was, who was the voice of Generation 1 Starscream? Again, voice actor nerd. So I'm looking around, and there's just a bunch of people going. The guy immediately to my right, just in a moment of pure charity, I just sort of go, Chris Latta. And the guy looks at me like, and I'm like, just say it, just say it. And he's like, Chris Latta? And they go, congratulations, you win. Here, have a Fortress Maximus as well. It's now like 2 minutes to 6. I said, sorry, no more prizes, everybody.
Get the hell out.
So I'm scribbling down my details and going, that was the weirdest trivia competition I've ever been in, just because nobody knew the subject matter at all. And there's a tap on the shoulder, And I look up because I'm kneeling on the floor like a grown man does, and it's the bloke who said Chris Latta, and he says, "Thank you so much. If you ever need a favor, please feel free to ask." And he hands me his business card, and he's a professional illustrator.
Oh,
wow.
fantastic.
Illustrator / toy designer. So
Bank those points.
let's just make an action figure of me and see who wants to buy it.
So you really paid it forward at Comic-Con. You got someone a free Fort Max.
It felt like at that point that nobody was going to get an answer, and I was like, they obviously have some to give away. We need to take them from them.
Like, I'm just here to see that Iron Man guy. Like, just checking out the movie stuff and don't worry about whatever else comes out.
I just came here for Suicide Squad, and there's transforming robots. So I filled out a form and I said, "Does it matter from Australia?" They're like, "It's fine, we'll mail it." I'm like, "That's great." Before I left, they also gave me these fantastic Transformers Earth Wars patches.
Oh, awesome.
These are embroidered. They come in. They ask if you're an Autobot or a Decepticon, but apparently if you win a Transformers trivia competition, you are both, so you get both patches.
Boom. So you are in fact punch counterpunch.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, honestly, one of the first things.
I see what you've done there.
Hasn't that alien?
The first thing I actually did at Comic-Con was go to the Hasbro booth, find a Fort Max box, whip out my tape measure, and try to figure out if I had any chance of fitting it in my luggage to get home.
Turns out you don't have to.
The answer was there is no way in hell I would have fit it, but that doesn't matter because I didn't have to bring it home.
Could you wrap it in a towel and carry it on as a baby?
I actually thought at one point I would just have to buy Fort Max his own seat if I wanted to bring him home. So.
Yeah, well, look, if it came down to that, there are ways we could have dealt with it, but as it turns out, we don't have to, so that's fine.
Honestly, at this point, the delivery of my Fort Max could look just like the opening credits to the Ace Ventura movie, kicking, punching, throwing. The fact that I spent $0 on it means that it appeals to me greatly. I don't mind at all.
I think that's fine,
Was that a Hasbro thing? Or is it someone else just giving away Hasbro?
I mean, technically it's Transformers Earth Wars, and I mean, on the certificate they do show at the bottom Hasbro and Backflip Studios, the people that made it, so...
Yeah, it doesn't tell you a lot, though.
No. But I mean, Hasbro's involved in some way, so obviously they have access to a Fort Max somewhere, but, I thought this was going to be like a poster or something. I mean, I did actually get a poster. Now, they were giving away Combiner Wars posters. And they were very impressive, and I do have it.
Mm-hmm.
I can get it.
You can do that, yeah.
I've got one of those. I've got two of those. I modified them into a spud gun.
They're also good for carrying posters, to be honest. But,
Because you
can get those things from Daiso now as well.
It cost me $4.95. Because the extended, just like a 66 rocket launcher, it's awesome. Bit of foam, tennis ball. Bye-bye, pussycat.
Now, honestly, the thing about Comic-Con is that you can get posters from pretty much every stand you can imagine. But I have too many posters already. Like, you can't see my other walls, but I've got Grimlock over there, and I've got Optimus up there. Now, I wasn't going to take any posters home this year, because I just thought I have too many, but...
Yeah, okay.
Victorion.
Fair enough, too.
Oh, Bruticus.
Victorion having a scrap with Devastator.
Oh, Devastator, sorry. I see.
Yeah, the light's reflecting off a little, so
that's right.
hence Brad's mistake about Bruticus and Devastator.
But I mean,
damn.
Yeah,
damn, that
awesome.
looks
that is a good looking piece of artwork.
Yeah, you've got Megatron in there, you've got little Rodimus down the front, I remember I saw this on the first day and I went, I don't have my poster tube because I wasn't going to take any posters. And then I came back the next day with the tube just to get this.
Yeah.
You can actually see right in the middle.
Fair enough.
They got the Enigma of Combination. And, yeah, I mean, there's some fantastic... this is for Combiner Wars, the Prime Wars trilogy. So you can see there's, a character down here. that is really hard for me to show out, but you can see that she's holding some kind of hammer.
That actually looks like.
Wait a minute.
That actually looks like. What's that name from Caminus?
Yeah, from the cartoon trailer.
Yeah, I can hardly see it.
Yeah,
You're on a phone.
it's one of those things. It's probably worth doing a Google and actually finding a version that's not being held like this. But a lot of great artwork. It makes me really interested to see more of that kind of filter. So.
Very nice. You'll have to find somewhere on your wall for it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think it's time for me to take Grimlock down and maybe replace this one. I guess probably one of the final things I'd like to share is obviously the cosplay situation was great. Now, I booked myself pretty solid that it was hard for me to be in one place and sort of check out the cosplay situation, but I did have a moment where I left a panel and I immediately ran into this. It was just... It's fair enough to run into Wheeljack, but it's not every day to run into a Wheeljack that's a full, like, abdomen and shoulders taller than your average person.
Yeah, do not put your foot out.
No. I don't think... The worst thing is that he was completely alone as well, so I'm pretty sure that, depending on how much he can see... Yeah, no handler. I'm pretty sure that depending on how much he can see, he probably lived in near constant fear that there was going to be somebody out there who's just like, Transformers suck! Decepticons forever! And then out comes the foot, and the poor guy ends up in a wheelchair, and he has to end up, cosplaying as Fix-It.
Somehow he ends up with his stills attempting to pass through his body.
Yes. Exactly, but the guy was fantastic. The beautiful thing is he actually had like a sound device, so he actually made electronic noises as he walked.
Oh, nice.
You can see that there's a lot of electronics in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is he's wired for something.
Padded gloves too to break his fall.
Yeah. Also known as the last line of defense.
Yeah.
Transformers cosplay is always something to behold. Like, you go to a convention, there's heaps of people dressed up and whatnot, and then you see someone cosplaying as Transformer, and it just stands out completely. It's fantastic.
It does. We saw a few people. Well, I think maybe 3 or 4 at Supernova cosplaying as Transformers. Didn't see any at Nerdmania. Was that the only Transformers cosplay you saw at Comic-Con?
It was the only one that I took a photo of. I mean, there was a couple of smaller ones. That was the biggest one for scale that I saw. I mean, we were mentioning earlier that there was a Megatron somewhere, but I definitely did not see him. But I saw a lot of sexy Skywarps.
Sexy Skywarp.
It was a woman in a purple bodysuit who had a nice pair of wings. And
that wasn't where I thought you were going with that sentence.
No, I quickly veered that one. But no, it was just a woman who was just a sexy Skywarp. But it's sort of a case of, on one hand, it's like Skywarp, not Starscream. Good pick of character. At the same time, did Skywarp wear stilettos?
Well, we were saying earlier that Starscream often ends up with high heels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, if we're talking Prime, the Takara Skywarp had high heels.
Yes, that is true. But it's because Steve Bloom, if you do end up getting to watch the panel for the Transformers one, he did say that being a good villain takes incredible posture, and posture comes from an exceptionally good pair of heels.
Excellent. Right, now we are pushing a little bit for time tonight, so I kind of feel like what I want to do is go through the other Comic-Con reveals, Transformers wise, because there's sort of a whole bunch of Titans Return figures that, as you say, were revealed sort of after you hit the booth, and then I think we might call it a night and cover some of the other
next week.
There is going to be a bit of a dearth of news for a few weeks, so I'm sure we can spread some things out.
Absolutely.
What already seen anyway. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So, without further ado, let's get a look at some of the some of the other figures from some of the other Comic Con reveals. Brad's kindly put my screen up there. So now this article from Cybertron very kindly said that it's an updated picture of everything from Comic Con. It lies. So we'll be going through a few things.
It might have been updated at the time that they posted it, but then something changed because that's what they were doing at Comic Con this year.
That is quite true. Now, so the first, we're just going to basically scroll through these articles, have a look at some of the photos, and react. Okay. So this is the Robots in Disguise Clash of the Transformers. It seems to be one of their sub brands. Decepticon Island Showdown, which has what's the dude's name? It's
Steeljaw.
It's Steeljaw, right?
Steeljaw.
I just wanted to make sure Steeljaw wasn't Strong Arm, but that's okay. So Steeljaw and Bumblebee, and there's a nice little accessory there in the form of one of the prison pods.
That's what I'd noticed. It's just one of the stasis pods that they're using.
Yeah,
it's very nice they're finally bringing it out.
I'm tempted to pick up this just for that alone. Like, yeah, it looks cool. The figures are the same figures that we've seen elsewhere. Yeah. I think maybe the accessories might be slightly different. I'm not sure.
I mean, I can already see that there's a couple of accessories in there. Like you can see the sort of that transparent axe in the background. There's a couple of sort of Decepticon Hunter swords at the base as well. Does it come with all of them?
Yeah, I guess it's hard to say. Accessories in the show.
But at the same time, it's kind of a set that probably complements your other Transformers figures as well, because if you get like half a dozen Transformer Hunters, then you can outfit all your other deluxe figures as well.
I know, right? Like suddenly you've got like a prison guard situation.
And I mean, I really like the stasis pod. I mean, I'm not one for sort of customizing my figures too much, but I feel like that's the kind of thing that I'd really like to sort of paint on some frost around the outside of the transparent window.
Yeah,
I think would make it look really cool.
Yeah, there's a closer up look at that, and there's some of those some of the swords and the guns. What have we got here? These are
Leo Kaiser.
Actually. Yeah, okay. There has been much made of this set over the last couple of weeks. There is of course a Skylinks repaint. Yeah. And there's like we were saying earlier, your standard sort of loom attachments that go on as well. I don't really have that much experience or feeling for that figure or that set. Are you guys particularly interested in it?
It's interesting that they've gone to Skylinks and they're calling it Desaurus, which is the Japanese name for Deathsaurus.
Yeah.
So
you can sort of see that in terms of Skylinks, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's like completely not a member of Leo Kaiser.
Again, it's one of those
things. They have to do something, don't they?
It's one of those things that I usually see when it comes to sort of Hasbro and Takara releases, is that quite often, if they have a unique mold for something, they'll do a separate version of it just for the sake of, if there's people out there like die-hard Decepticon fans are like, I don't want to own Skylinks, but I like the toy, but I don't want to own Skylinks, but I like the toy. It's like, well, here you go. It's totally not Skylinks. You can own that.
Well, so they, excuse me, they have actually done quite a number on Skylinks in terms of paint and just color of the shuttle.
I mean, it's the same armature, but it is a really, it's a hard remix of him. I also like the head sculpts on the limbs for him, because I mean that was one thing that that Combiner Wars kind of really dropped the ball in a lot of figures, was sort of like, hey, this is totally new head sculpt, we just repainted it. But, you know, it's totally new head sculpt, whereas these guys, completely original.
Yeah, Hellbats is dead on Hellbat. That looks fantastic.
Yeah, I got a bet with John. We're going to see a Takara split Voyager for the torso.
I reckon it won't be a split Voyager, it'll be a Voyager and a Legends on the chest.
Yeah, also, the weapons that the deluxe figures are holding, as far as Combiner Wars figures go, they're pretty unique.
Yeah, they're not foot or hands.
They actually are, aren't they? Yeah. So does that mean that Leo Kaiser is going to come with the new foot accessories?
Good question.
I don't think so, because we saw pictures of combined mode and it just had the standard antler.
Yeah, that's right. We did, didn't we? Yeah. So maybe, since this will be getting sold as a gift set, maybe there'll just be some extra accessories in it for once.
It's easy when they're bundled.
Mm-hmm. It is.
I will say this though, there's a lot of that boring Hasbro grey over on those figures on the limb robots.
Look, I think it's actually broken up quite a lot. Oh, I suppose the legs, yeah.
Yeah, particularly on that blue guy on the left.
Yeah. Yeah, you've only got that yellow circle to break the legs up, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. That is a bit disappointing. Let's move on. What is that? That is not the Starscream that we've been seeing around the place.
That is the Starscream that will be revealed in Robots in Disguise Season 3. He has a really sort of G1 palette. People said it was Armada Starscream, but I'm like, blue, red, white wings? That's G1. That's original Starscream. He obviously looks...
It even looks like his coronation gear with the shoulder pads.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of that look that they got going on. It's also interesting to note that on his chest, that's actually a minicon.
Oh. It's a minicon, and it looks like a sword as well.
It does. That's sort of the big... It looks like, just from the previews of Season 3, it looks like we're going to be seeing a lot more weapon minicons. Like, rather than minicons that are sort of projectiles, like, we've actually got one that turns into a goddamn axe. Like, it's just real meaty, really scary to look at.
So is this actually the Starscream that we've seen out at retail in the last couple of weeks, or is this another one?
I think it's a Legend or deluxe scale. I think this is Voyager.
Okay.
This one does look
the deluxe of it. Yeah, that's definitely not the normal one. Maybe it's a deployer though, because we haven't had Voyagers in Robots in Disguise.
Yeah, true.
Ash,
high heels.
You have your answer in terms of the feet there, the high heels.
I'd like to believe that maybe the high heels will fold out.
Maybe someone will make a third-party high heel.
It'll be an animation. It'll be in the animation. It won't be in the toy.
Maybe I'll have to go to Shapeways and get myself some long, long legs.
You can make them. You can make your own with duct tape and spit.
Yep, toothpicks. And ladies and gentlemen, it is not Blitzwing.
It is Retardo Megatron.
It is.
Yeah, I really don't like that at all.
I don't like this figure at all. No.
It looks better when it was a really blurry image.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those figures that now you've seen. Like, I've actually seen this guy up close, and it didn't sell me. Like, the alt modes look sort of robust enough that I sort of went, I kind of want to transform it. You know, I kind of want to give it a go, but I don't want to own it. I can say that right now. Like, if you gave me the opportunity to transform this, Jason is experiencing technical difficulties.
No, we lost Max.
Oh, dear. That's how strongly he felt about that Megatron.
Max felt terrible. I think what he's done is that he was using his iPhone and he's forgotten to charge it.
Fair enough.
We will see how that goes. Don't like this Megatron at all. Like,
we've lost Jason.
Yeah, we've lost the feed.
Yeah, something's going on there.
But I mean, it's like I said before, it's like, obviously, triple changer Megatron turning into a jet and a tank. Now, we've seen Megatron as a tank. That's fair enough. It's sort of the answer to, well, he can't be a gun because it causes too many troubles. But we already know of a triple changer that turns into a jet and a tank.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, we do. So
I can't help but... Welcome back, Max.
Thank you.
It's one of those things. The first time I saw Nova Prime and he turned into a shuttle thing and a train, I was like, you're not Astro Train.
Yes.
So this guy's the same thing. They're going to release this guy as not Blitzwing, knowing full well that Blitzwing will come. People will probably buy this figure for the sake of trying it out, and then when Blitzwing comes out, they'll pick it up. It's a bold strategy, but it works. I mean, we like plastic.
I think if you go down to the jet mode, that's definitely where it's apparent. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't like his arm cannon at all. There's actually no pictures of his alt modes, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Look, let's move on. This is the Deluxe Brainstorm.
I actually really like this figure. I mean, at first I thought I wouldn't like the fact that sort of the prow of the ship is this weird sort of wrist accessory, but I don't hate it.
Well, it is a blur retool.
It is, but I mean, again, the blue mold's not a terrible mold. Like, it's an interesting mold, and the thing is, if you retool a figure and make it look this different, it's a good retool.
It is.
Yeah.
It is a pretty heavy retool.
From what I've been hearing, Blur's the most solid figure in Wave 1.
Yeah.
So
He looks really good.
hopefully we get something like this.
Nice silver
Yeah.
gun on his side too.
Now we talked about Sharkticons earlier. The
Now-
Legends Sharkticon.
I made a special trip back to the Hasbro booth just to make sure I could see these guys up close. And obviously it's behind glass, but I mean, I face to the glass, like, looking at these guys. They're Legends scale, so they're small, but they're the good side. Like, I mean, Legends figures, in my opinion, they range from, like, Power Glide, which is, like, pretty good detail, good posability, looks pretty nice, to sort of Wind Charger. I think I got you out of a Happy Meal at some point. These guys far on the Power Glide spectrum.
I think Legends figures for Combiner Wars have actually been quite good.
Yeah, I mean, there's
in
hits.
general. Yeah.
There's a lot of hits, but there's some solid misses. But these guys are just a hit. They knock it out of the park. They're like just looking at them, the transformation looks pretty straightforward, but just the detail that you get on them, the head sculpt, the head sculpt on the little guys.
Yeah, this is going to be the next Shockwave easily.
Yeah, Shockwave was fantastic, and I love the dorky little flail that they get. It's just fantastic. They didn't need to do it. I'm glad they did, just because it gives them something to hold when they're not gnawing on you.
Yeah.
We should get these for Christmas.
Let's move on. There's Bumblebee, another Legend scale figure.
Surprised they're putting out another one so soon.
Yeah.
So soon in terms of what? When was the last Bumblebee?
It was like, actually, I guess it was 3 years ago now, so it's
so
so soon.
There was one of those little $5 Bumblebees that came out last year, but that was, tiny.
Those.
They did make a Generations Legends in their Thrilling Freddy line.
Generations Legends that came alongside a couple of other smaller ones like those. I think the original. I want to say the original Scrapnel figure.
Yeah, that one. It was in
those range. It was kind of the genesis of a lot of the really more current Legends that we saw, and I mean this is still a very serviceable Bumblebee.
It is.
I got one that come with one of the Age of Extinction Deluxes in a 2-pack. If that's the same Bumblebee, I think it was one of the Dinobots.
Yeah, so it actually does look like a similar. It does look like a pretty similar Bumblebee to me. Yeah. That head sculpt is definitely different. It probably is actually a different figure. Let's be honest.
It looks similar, but it's apparently this is I saw a comparison. This is an entirely new mold. They've just gone for similar engineering.
Who's this?
I want to say
Steeljaw.
It's funny how you have such different Steeljaws between series, isn't it?
How does he's obviously not a cassette for Blaster.
I think he's it's kind of weird because the cassette.
Is that a Titan Master?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the cassette figures that we're seeing, like the Rewind, the Laser Beacon, the Buzzsaw, and all that they're doing, turn into very particular data slate figures. This guy doesn't look like he does that. So saying Target Master, I think that's actually that could be a very safe bet.
Yeah, it'll probably come in one of those like little single cards with a headmaster on them. You see where
it's back to ride.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a really good point. That's the thing we've got to keep in mind. Titan's Return is very much about the headmasters and using the head figures for things. So
he actually, if you look I don't know if you can see where my mouse is pointing, but just in here, it looks like there's a cavity.
Yeah. So I think maybe he's a mighty steed.
Maybe he is. What the hell is that?
It is Bit. Unsung hero and love affair of the Robots in Disguise series.
And he has a little version of himself there.
Yeah, if he wants to play with himself, he can do so.
That's a good looking Legends.
It is. It's just he's such a ridiculous figure. It's one of he's one of those characters I want to own a figure of him just because I love the character so much. And it's not a good love. It's one of those, you are so stupid, but I love you for it.
Okay. That is it. That must be the reveals from the Hasbro stand, because we can actually see the Autobot and Decepticon sort of backing.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, they were the empty display cabinets that got filled up. I guess sort of the biggest reveal was obviously triple changer Megatron, and that sort of led to, I mean, we won't talk about it now, but there's a triple changer Optimus out there
Yeah.
in a very similar vein.
We will probably get to him. So, out of this, what's a buy for you guys? I feel like the deluxes are things that we would all be interested in. I'm certainly pretty interested in. Actually, I think Brainstorm's coming up. No, there we are. I'm pretty interested in Brainstorm. I'm sort of I kind of don't want to get into them because I feel like if I start buying one, I'll just start buying more.
It's like I said, you can pick up like one every week, and all of a sudden, yeah, you've got a dozen of them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my best to try and avoid it, but I think I'll fail. I'll be honest.
I'm definitely
As for me, I reckon, yeah, you see every figure here. So count how many those are, and that's how many Nors I'm going to buy.
Yeah.
You're going to buy one for each of them, eh?
Without a shadow of a doubt, I think I'm going to approach my local toy stores. I'm going to ask about, if I buy 6 Nors, can I just pay for 5? Because I'm buying 6, you know.
Unfortunately, they'll be shipped one per box in the weight assortment.
Yeah.
It'll be ridiculous. But I just love to have some kind of situation where, like, I've got a whole swarm of Nors, have a Rodimus figure, have a good Cup figure, and then I just need to find some way of having some little Energon chips.
Yeah.
I know
that
at
sparkles
TF,
into a bucket of water.
Yeah.
I think there was one company at TFCon revealed Energon cubes of some form.
So Keith's Fantasy Club, they shipped Energon cubes with the Opticlones, and they have actually decided to sell them separately. They're actually pretty cheap. I think Sam on the group's been going to bring them in for about $20 a set.
That's nice.
Are they the ones with liquid in them, or like
They look like they have some liquid in one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
I am still chasing. I bought a figure. I bought a Quake Blast off somebody, and somebody in the group, very cool guy, and he said to me, before you throw away the box, take a look inside the foam, and so I did. And what was revealed to me was this.
What is that?
It is cut glass.
Glass cube.
Yes, a cut glass Energon cube. It is purple. It is fantastic. And if you have articulated Ultra Magnus hands, it sits perfectly in the palm of it.
Wow. So that's in. Is that actually in every Quakewave box? Or is that just the one that he sent you?
This guy included it. He said he found it in a knick-knack shop. And then he sends them out with the figures that he sells. But I am just after as many of these as I get. Obviously, I received these for the fans' toys and Secticons. Little plastic dealies. Fair enough. But this, just from every angle, looks incredible. And I want like a dozen more of them.
That's how you've got to wipe all the fingerprints off it.
Yeah, well, that's why I give it a wipe and give it back to Ultra Magnus, because he doesn't have fingerprints. He can hold it.
Yeah, and also he does actually like to keep things meticulously clean.
Yes, that is one of the best character traits ever introduced to him.
All right, we're going to move on to the next post, which is some official product art for Brainstorm, obviously, as we're looking at there. Now, these to me seem like they're likely to be renders, although that one's a very good render.
Yeah, that looks real.
It's a mix. That one's a real one, but I think the ones from Cybertron Con were renders.
Yeah. So the heads are obviously
I stand
renders.
correct. Okay.
Bumblebee's a render.
That is the most rendered render I've ever seen.
Yeah. But yeah, so a lot of these guys we've seen in the previous post there.
This is the funny thing as well, is that the render of the Shakticons actually looks less charming and less engaging than the actual pictures of the figure. Because that's what sold me on the Shakticons. I heard about them, and when I saw them in the plastic, beautiful. Had to have them. The renders make them look kind of bad.
Well, so they've got transparent green eyes where there's a gold one on the actual figure that we saw on the stand. Yeah. The render for Megatron looks way better than the actual figure does.
Still a
yes,
lot of
it
junk
does.
there.
It does and it doesn't. There's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of junk on it. If you were to basically zoom in on individual parts of Megatron and just look at them as sections rather than seeing it as Megatron, you'd see a lot of mess.
Oh, I've been saying since this was revealed that there's a lot of mess on it. I don't like that chest plate at all.
No.
It just doesn't sit very well with me.
And the shoulder tabs too. Like at least here they're black. The last thing we've seen, they're the same grey plastic as the rest of it. But
it looks like there's some serious kibble on the back of his wrists as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. On the back of his forearm on the left. Yeah, disappointing in that figure. There is that alt mode.
Blitzwing.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it's Blitzwing.
Yeah, and that chest.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing it.
Tank mode probably would have looked better if they didn't put the little person cockpit on top of the gun. It's just odd.
That's the case with most of the cockpits for these figures, though. Like the place that the figures insert into them, it just looks awkward.
Can we just call this guy Shitsing?
Truthfully, I want to see this figure. I want to see the figure to understand the engineering that's involved. That's about it. Also, when you take the arm cannon off the front of the tank, it has the most hilariously pathetic gun I have ever seen on a tank ever.
Maybe that cannon's compensating for something.
This is the guy that doesn't want to get changed in the gym change rooms in front of other people because he's just afraid that someone will see him. And it's one of the things, you don't blame him for it either.
I want to see it purple, sandy colour.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's a few Titan Masters in here as well. I think by and large there's not much that we haven't already seen there. That brainstorm is really growing on me. Yeah.
Interesting that it's here seen and before in individual package, because originally it was only going to be part of that free pack set for SDCC. It wasn't going to be sold separately.
Oh, look, I think at the time that was revealed. In fact, if you look very carefully, that you can actually see the point where the sticky tape goes around. Around the side.
Now, there was one thing I did just want to quickly bring up with everyone here. Was everyone else here aware that the SDCC exclusive version of Sentinel Prime, the big orange scary guy,
traffic cone,
was everyone here aware that the SDCC exclusive version was actually transparent orange plastic?
I did hear that a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't. It wasn't entirely transparent, but it was a good.
Not entirely, but it's a safe bet to say about 90% of it. Because I mean, I didn't go to SDCC in the hopes of buying exclusive Transformers because the Sentinel Prime set was interesting and Fort Max wouldn't fit in my case. But when I saw that it was transparent orange, it actually turned me off him entirely.
Oh right. I see. Usually people see transparent versions of figures and they're like, oh yeah, I want that.
It depends what it is and what the reason for it is. I mean, if you get a transparent Starscream, Ghost of Starscream, interesting. This was just sort of oddly translucent Sentinel, just because.
For no good reason, really. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. The other two figures in the packaging, like that's the other thing. It comes with Windblade, and it comes with Brainstorm. They're not transparent.
No, yeah.
I mean, why? But they're not transparent.
Why put them all together?
If it was the three figures and they're all transparent, it would just be some kind of weird triple pack of, hey, here's some cool translucent dudes. But you get this transparent Voyager of a New Titans Returned figure that you kind of maybe want the normal version of. You get the Robots in Disguise Deluxe of Windblade, and then you get Brainstorm.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got a feel for what was popular just by seeing, what people were walking around with at the con. I can safely say I did not see many of those at all.
Yeah, it feels like something that they may have just sort of thrown together in the hopes of creating something that might have been considered exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Fort Max is just a big deal. I mean, there was Metroplex was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive just not that long ago with the chrome finish and the Repro labels, and it's just those cannons. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of, I did actually see somebody selling that figure, new in box, for $500 US at Comic-Con.
Yeah, he's appreciated, definitely.
And the box was just beautiful to look at. But yeah, definitely Sentinel just wasn't doing it for me, which is a shame because I would have loved to pick up. I mean, that's the funny thing is I came back from San Diego Comic-Con and I won more Transformers-related swag than I bought. Go figure.
Wow.
All right,
Sorry,
go on, Max.
Seems like both Hasbro's Transformers and Marvel exclusives were pretty much duds this year.
Yeah, it's a sad thing, but it happens. I mean, to be honest, just as a very quick note, I will tell you that the one exclusive toy that completely blew everyone else to the water and just had scalpers on the street trying to sell it and people desperately trying to buy it was the NECA Arcade Turtles.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of love for Turtles around at the moment. So
they were good figures. I can say that they will probably stole the show. So
yeah. We're going to change gears a little bit out of Titan's Return and start talking about the Generations alt mode figures. These guys have huge heads and tiny bodies, and looking at that right there, there's an acid storm. So that means Max is all in on this line. But yeah, they're pretty cute.
They're not blind packed.
Nemesis.
Oh, they will be. You better believe.
Behind them, I think you'll find they are.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
That Cliff Jumper's got Valentine's Day written all over it.
It does, doesn't it? You just have to change his little Autobot insignia to a love heart.
Yeah, I'll be honest. When I saw these guys, I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, I don't usually go for this kind of stuff, and I mean, we've seen the loyal subjects do sort of the big heads and the little bodies, and they're a bit hit and miss. But these guys just, figures that you keep on your desk at work. Yeah,
Plus
these guys would do pretty good. Yeah.
Modes, they just stick their head on top.
Mode.
Yeah, they transform. So yeah, I gotta say,
look at Bumblebee.
I know, look at him.
Oh, he's so happy.
I like some of these head sculpts. Like, look, that's a good.
Take Megatron.
It's a good lot of head sculpts. Megatron has lips. It's kind of interesting.
Big, weird robot lips.
Yeah, big robot lips. Yeah.
If that's Megatron's lips, can you imagine an Overlord in this line?
It depends on how big his smirk is.
If you could take the insignia off, I reckon they just display a lot better without the bot or Decepticon. Especially when Megatron's the same colour.
If you scroll up a bit, I think they're hinged. Have a look at the rear thing of it. Yeah, they're actually hinged, so you can sit them down.
Nice. It's you'd think all the cons would be purple.
It is odd how some of them are grey, some of them are red, and some of them are purple. I don't know whether maybe they're just test shots, like they're just test samples they were showing at the show, so they might not be finished. But
yeah,
no, I do agree.
That'd be good. I hope to see some of these getting out soon.
So these guys are already at retail overseas. I don't know if they're actually going to come here or not, but I may pick up a couple when I go overseas.
I will say one other thing as well. Just to address the whole blind boxing thing, at least one thing I've noticed with Hasbro and the companies that they do get to do blind boxes for is that they do also quite often offer a range of options where you can just buy the figure you want, which is quite good. I mean, Loyal Subjects, for example, they do sort of like, here's the entire set of the Constructicons, or, buy a set of 3 Insecticons, instead of having to dig through all the blind boxes. There's also the little Mighty Heads, or whatever they were called. I can't remember. The smaller ones. They had
Oh, wait.
You know what I'm talking about?
Do you mean the 30th anniversary ones?
Yeah. Those ones, there were blind boxes of those, but they just sold flat out the characters you want, mint on a sealed card. You could just buy the guy you wanted. And the best thing about that is that you could actually go, right, I want G1 Megatron. I don't want Dark of the Moon Megatron. So you just buy it. And do you know what's even better? Is that if you like those figures for whatever reason, they are still at the reject shop.
Yep, they are.
You can buy them dirt cheap, get the ones you want, and if you like them, they're yours.
Yeah, I got a box of them here. I got brought off someone in the group for like $10.
Yep. Some of them are quite good. I love the Soundwave one. He looks great.
Yeah. Yep. There's some nice little molds in amongst them, just like these guys. So.
Last bit of Comic-Con Titans Return news. This is Wave 2. So Blaster is, I believe, a part of Wave 1. Soundwave is in Wave 2, And I think the general consensus is that people prefer Soundwave over Blaster. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that Blaster had a bit of an odd head, to be honest.
Yeah,
Just because
that helmet
it sort of sunk a bit in, but Soundwave nails it. Just perfect.
They're a good-looking pair of figures.
There's Astro Train as well. That's the is that the wrist swivel you were referring to earlier, Ash, as well?
No, I'm actually saying that some of the deluxe figures have wrist swivels.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, it seems like in Combined Wars they try to make a waist swivel a sort of uniform thing on deluxes, and never gone for a wrist swivel instead.
Yeah,
I haven't played with Sentinel Prime, but I hope that crutch pegs together a bit better than what that one was.
Yeah, that's the big thing about figures that do the whole split down the middle thing, is that if they don't have good pegs, it's going to be a bad time.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Combined Wars bone
Are we
crushes.
looking at Mind Wipe now?
Yeah.
Looking at Mindwipe, he's got a really blocky face.
He does. He's got a great purple on him though, but just
Well, again,
actually,
detail.
I was going to say, I've seen this figure transformed, and I know that the entire head just hinges away.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just folds away.
Nice.
And so this is you can see Chrome Dome there, and that's Weird Wolf, right? And
Is it Weird Wolf or Wired Wolf?
I think it. No, I think it
Weird.
depends on how much of a typo someone makes when they're typing up the news, doesn't it? Because it is character difference.
Okay.
It's Weird Wolf, but then in the line they're calling it Wolf Wire because they don't have a line.
That's
Wolf
where I
Wire,
got
that's
it
the
right.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, Wolf Wire. I knew the name was changed. Another interesting figure, but just really well made. I mean, you can see both there, the alt mode, you can see the actual bot form. Really, really good. I mean, even just that sort of sword accessory that he gets for the tail, again, it's fairly detailed for something that, you know, if it was Combiner Wars, you know what the weapons were like in that. You wouldn't expect much from it, but they really knocked it out of the park for these ones.
Yeah.
Plus
Yeah,
the blue
that wolf
breaks
mode
up that
looks
yellow
perfect.
nicely.
Mm. Ah, Ravage.
Damn.
Ravage. Why does Ravage turn into a plane?
Poor
We
Ravage.
knew it was coming.
Yeah, it's because the cassette bots all turn into three things. It's the same reason that Buzzsaw turns into some weird wheelie tank thing.
With only half treads.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, look, we're at the end of the Comic Con reveals for Titans. I kind of feel like we could do a couple more news stories, but I think we are at the point where it is nearly midnight as we record late on a Friday night, and I think we need to sort of bring the hammer down on the show. But let's go for one more news story. This one broke today.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I believe this was at the ACG Con which is currently going on in Hong Kong. Hasbro's shown off Masterpiece Thrust and a new reveal of Masterpiece Dirge. So the final Conehead is coming, and it's the first public reveal of them. No information on when it's going to be up for order yet, but you would have to imagine they're not going to be far off.
Mm-hmm.
And so Thrust, I got to say, Thrust is looking fantastic. That jet mode, I'm really up on that jet mode.
I
And
think all three have done a great job on the jets.
yeah, this
Even though
is
they got the fake nose.
that's true.
The
the fake
robot
nose
modes
is good.
look as good as for older MP11 molds, but yeah, those jets look perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're
See-
getting the purple for the kneecaps from because the G1 version doesn't have it.
Yeah. It's
Looks
one of
like
those.
they've
I think they
borrowed
just
from-
needed a splash of something, so just went for it.
Yeah, that doesn't, especially on Frost, that just really doesn't look good.
It
See, I'm
does-
one of
it
those
does-
people
Honestly,
that
Brad, it'll probably be a sticker sheet, so you can just not put it
yeah,
on.
if it's not there. See, now I'm one of those people that I don't actually own a single Seeker when it comes to the Masterpiece figures.
I was going to ask this. Go on. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't actually own a single Seeker, and it's not because I don't like them. It's not because I have something against them. It's because I know it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
When you own one, suddenly you own two. It's like, oh, I got Starscream. I might as well get Skywarp. Now I need Thundercracker, so all three of them are there. And the Coneheads are pretty nice, and Acid Storm looks good. Yeah, Sunstorms are pretty yellow. Next thing you know, that's all you own. But
And then you've got the Ghost Starscream as well.
yeah,
and,
now I need one for Coronation, and then.
Yeah.
But Thrusts, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that when it comes to people that are both planes and robots, Thrust was always my favorite, and that's why I was so disappointed when I saw the figure and I went, "Damn it, it's really good."
So
They could have at least done me the courtesy of making.
Yeah, well, yeah. So if you look at there is sort of a bit of a classic MP11 mold issue showing up on Thrust as well, in that they've raised his arm and it's sort of pulled up the chest part at the front.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, that's a massive problem. It's another reason why I haven't rushed out to buy Seekers, is because depending on how you pose them, they have that really awful moment where sort of the entire middle hinge comes out.
Mm-hmm.
They do that if you pick them up by the chest too.
Yeah. I know that because a friend of mine does have a Starscream, and I was like, "Hey, can I give it a go?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And I picked it up and went. He's twice as tall now, and he's like, "It's fine." It's
You'd think with all the molding like that they've done on these two new figures, they could at least just put a tab in there.
Yeah, I know, right?
Sure, it would compromise, I guess, the perfect form of the front of the jet mode, but at the same time, it's like
on the back.
Just one tiny little peg, just change it
It's
entirely.
necessary.
It would improve the figure 200%. I'll say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Dirge made it out today. No ordering information yet.
Look at these cannons.
I know,
He's
they look
packing
awesome.
some serious heat on those arms.
And so, so look, you would have to assume that it'll be the usual Takara Tomy Mall, and there'll be a Chinese release as well. So that'll be the one that comes with the coins.
Actually,
Does anyone?
I'll promise this is my last San Diego Comic-Con story, but I will say that obviously looking around at all the different vendors and such, and looking for stuff to buy, I sort of reached the last day of the con. I still had about $200-something that I hadn't spent yet. And I came across somebody selling Masterpiece Skywarp. And so I asked him, how much was it? They said $250, and I was like...
So 11 billion Australian dollars.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, $11 billion. But it was sort of a case of, I could eat tonight, I could have Skywarp. I could eat tonight, or I could have Skywarp. And there's like a little devil on my shoulder saying, you could sell Skywarp, because it's one of the ones that people want. Angel's like, but you could also, eat for the next couple of days. Luckily enough, the decision was made for me. A lovely, balding gentleman who was twice my size said, how much for the Skywarp? I said, $250. He said, I'll give you $200. And they did it. So,
wow.
Yeah, swooped right in. So, yeah, another reason why I don't own any Seekers, because I'm too damn slow.
Because balding gentlemen just keep on coming in and buying.
Oh, yeah. I think he needed it more than me.
Yeah, no, it sounds like he did, especially with that accent.
How much for the Skywarp? I'll give you $200. Okay.
All right. I kind of want to draw a line under things. We have been going for a while, and it is getting late. So I feel like we should probably pick up the stuff that we've missed next week.
Yep.
The news is not going to go anywhere. What do you guys think?
There's just going to be more of it.
Yeah, there'll be a little bit more next week, I'm sure. But I kind of feel like they've done all these reveals now, and so like they have to give us a week off.
Yeah, a lot of it's sort of CAD or whatever else. So we'll see prototypes or painted pictures of bots coming up in the next few weeks. So.
There's a lot of stuff that's being shown off that like the Sharktacons in particular, I need to see the product pictures because sometimes the renders don't do much for me, but seeing the actual finished product, I'm like, if they can get it even half as good as that, I'm all in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, so we haven't actually talked much about the third-party reveals from TFCon, so we'll have a go at covering those next week. Being third-party releases, they're going to take about 12 months before they actually get released anyway, so we have time. We have time to go through those.
Absolutely.
And, we'll see how we go with that. But yeah, we'll aim to do some TFCon stuff next week, and probably a little bit more Titans Return stuff, because there are some Takara Tomy stories on that side as well.
Yeah.
But I think
And we got the stuff from Cybertron Con as well.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, that's come out today and everything as well too. So yeah, there'll be enough to talk about next week, I'm sure.
There is no mercy on our wallets. They will not let us rest.
Oh,
no. My wallet is screaming. Actually, my wallet is screaming, and you'll find out next week why when we do new acquisitions. But yeah, I spent a lot of money on a Transformer this week, and not entirely sure if I should have.
Just be grateful there's no one home to kick you out.
Excellent. So next week when we do the podcast, we'll see how underfed and emaciated you look, and we might have to do a donation drive throughout the week to please send 2-minute noodles to Jason so he doesn't.
Please save Jason. Yeah. All right. Look, that's going to be it. So everyone, thank you for listening. Not sure what events are coming up for the week ahead. It's been a busy couple of weeks in terms of cons. We haven't even talked about Nerd Mania. It was quite a lot of fun. But I think, Brad, you asked a question last week about how people feel about conventions, and I think that might be good fodder for discussion next week in light of Nerd Mania. I nearly said NerdCon, but yeah.
Yeah, expectations from attendees, so and exhibitors. So that's all right. We can get into it next week.
Cool. All right, that is it. Off the Shelf is the voice of Transformers Collectors Club Australia. You can find our website at transformerscca.com. It's got links to everything we do. There's the Facebook discussion group, the buy sell trade group, the Twitter site, the podcast page, the YouTube page, all of that. You can find it all on the website. Podcast is on iTunes. Please go over there and give us a review. Hopefully it's a good one. The link is on the website. And yeah, you'll find the podcast on YouTube in video form, and as a special bonus for people who watch it on YouTube, it tends to be in uncut video form, so you get a little bit of chatter before and after the show. So yeah. I don't know.
Special bonus. It's a special bonus just for you.
It's the extended edition you never knew you wanted.
Which Ash transforms what figure is that live?
Do what?
I'm not doing Gewalt live. I mean, as much as I'd like to, but I'm not going to.
Damn, he's a big figure.
He's a big boy, and I love him for it.
He does.
Third-party masterpieces on a live podcast at midnight.
Just wait. We'll do a speed transforming session at some point. Everybody line up with your MP10. Ready, set, go.
You actually have to force everyone to have a drink first as well.
That would be interesting. Drunk speed transforming, and everybody has to transform DX9 Chiga.
Anything. Drunk speed transforming, there'll just be a gradual pile of shit next to you.
Yeah, until eventually, once you've had 9 or 10 shots, you get to do X Transbots, Apollyon, and if you break it, you lose.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. That is going to be it. It is actually just past midnight as we're recording. Yeah, thank you for listening, everyone, and yeah, we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being.
Yes, Ash. Thank you for joining us as well. I hope we can do it again soon.
Why not?
Awesome.
All right.
See you guys.
Goodbye, everyone.
See ya.